We are excited to have Nishino America as our title sponsor for 2026. Nishino is driven by ingenuity and R&D, bringing innovative chemistry that works. They back every product with a customer-focused expert who knows your field and is ready to help. Stop guessing and find solutions today at www.nishino.net. Thanks again for Nishino for sponsoring the show and this episode of the Specialty Cropcast.
Welcome to the Specialty Cropcast on Pomes and Stones. Join us for real conversations with farmers, agribusiness owners, and industry experts as we dive into farming, products, and the business of agriculture, all from the people who know it best.
All right, everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Specialty Cropcast. We have a super fun, exciting episode for you guys here today. We are going to be talking with Dr. John Murphy, the Director of Agronomy at AgXplore. Welcome back to Northern Michigan. This is your second trip. How's it feel?
Man, I appreciate you having me back up. Absolutely beautiful up here. What, 5 weeks ago? Yep. And it's amazing how quickly everything's changed. But man, this part of Northern Michigan is just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you're from Missouri, correct?
I am, Southwest Missouri.
Okay. So we'll get into it in a little bit later about why John's up here doing this. But let's get to know you a little bit better. So definitely. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Been married 25 years tomorrow. Yeah. So 25-year anniversary coming up. I have 5 kids and 1 grandkid. She's perfect. Just if you want to know, grandkids are awesome. Grew up in northern Nebraska, and then just through the course of schooling, ended up with my PhD in agronomy out at Kansas State. And then I got hired by a small university in Southwest Missouri and spent some time and actually helped put them together an ag program. And then I like to tell people I lied to Tim Gutwein, the owner of AgXplore. He hired me, and now he can't figure out how to get rid of me.
That's a good problem to have, guess, right? All right, so what is I said you're the Director of Agronomy at AgXplore. What does that mean? What's that role do?
Yeah, definitely. So when I kind of think about the agronomy team that we have AgXplore, 2 words come to mind: support and education. Right? Tim Gutwein is known to say at AgXplore we have 2 roles: sales and sales support. And so support a lot of times can mean hopping in a truck, driving to Michigan. Last week we were down in Tennessee. 2 weeks ago we were down in Florida. And so to me, support just simply means showing up for our guys and gals that are in the field selling. Right? Everybody wants someone next to them, and they want another voice there that's going to be able to help them set up trials, just talk through things. So that's the first thing. The second thing is education. And it's one thing I really like about what we're doing at AgXplore is we're not taking a shotgun approach and saying, hey, we're going to throw a whole bunch of things at the wall and see what sticks. We're really focusing on the education component. And we like to say it's the why, the when, the what. Why do you need it? When do you need to apply it? And what can the grower expect? And so that's what I really kind of think about my role. I have a great group of agronomists under me. We're putting together even a better team as we speak. We're going to be a little bit larger here in the coming days. We set up a lot of third-party and university trials. But again, it all boils down to supporting our folks and then helping to educate the people around us.
And you talked about you've been to quite a number of states here in the last couple of days. But in general, we spoke, your first time up that you're traveling all over the place. I mean, you're how many days away you said you were?
We've been gone. It's plenty. The one really nice thing is during the summer, Tim does have my kids travel with me. And so it makes it a lot better. But I tell people, I used to think I knew a lot about agronomy. I'll be honest with you. And then I travel, I get to meet somebody like you. We get to walk apples and cherries, and then we walk sugarcane down in Florida. You find out just how much there is to know.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about AgXplore and kind of what you guys are all about.
Yeah. So AgXplore is actually owned by one guy, Tim Gutwein. And so I think that's pretty unique in the kind of the setting that we're in, that we're completely American and owned by one company or by one guy, Tim Gutwein. We can really break down our portfolio into 3 buckets, if you want to think about it that way. So we do fertilizer management, right? One of the trials we have going with you guys, nitrogen, phosphorus, really big in that type of management. Then we have our large area of our growth is really in foliar nutritionals. So we say like NPK and micros, but I like to say what we really look at in the foliar nutritionals is we're a biostimulant company that decides to pair foliar nutritionals with that. And then the third one is our adjuvants. And Adjuvants aren't real fun. We all need them, right? But they're not real fun, but we do have a really solid line of adjuvants. But those are kind of our three main buckets right now.
Yep. And so anybody who is familiar with you guys might be wondering why you're talking on the Specialty Cropcast. We have your guys' sign up here above us. And obviously we are kind of partnering up this year to do a couple different things. But when you talked about some of the things, whether it's adjuvants, it's nutrients, it's nitrogen management, those are all things that not only are great for row crop, but also have big effects in the specialty crop world as well. So this is obviously a good opportunity for you guys to try and step, into a different kind of market. And for us in the specialty world, I think it's a good opportunity for us to get our hands on some new information, which you guys are big on, the education, and also some new products, because we don't really have too many new things that come to the specialty crop market. So this is super exciting to have you guys, on our farm helping me out with some trials as well, but also, try and explain what you guys do to the specialty crop world out there.
Definitely. And we really appreciate you working with us. As you know, kind of breaking into the specialty crop world is a little intimidating. I'm not going to lie to you. And you have to find somebody that's willing to partner with you, right? And let you kind of learn, right? You guys haven't been, you've been really good at sharing with us and educating us, and then allowing us to find a spot where we can fit with you.
Yeah, it's so funny. So some of the more common things you'll find with people that are new to specialty crops is like you said, there's maybe not even what's new, but the similarities are pretty close, but we just have it in our own little way,
Definitely.
We talk about June drop in cherries, where you get that and the tree kind of aborts the fruit that's not going to make it. It's not going to hold on, and it'll drop that fruit. And you guys have a similar situation.
Yeah, it was amazing. We were talking about that this afternoon, and it matches up with tip back in corn, right? Gets hot, gets dry, gets stressed, and we lose the kernels. Same thing happens in your cherries. You guys just call it something different.
Yeah, exactly. And we talked for a couple of days now, and there's multiple different instances that are like that. So that's super cool to see that it sounds like it's different. It sounds like it's different farming, a different agriculture, but really it's not.
No.
So that's super cool to see that. So we obviously have alluded to now a little bit about what we're doing on our farm, right? That's why you're up here, is because we are going to do some cool things with the product you guys have called Endzone Max. Will you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Endzone Max is all about looking at how do we manage nitrogen, right? And we like to use that word manage, right? Stabilization is the word we've used since the 70s. And it just simply says, hey, we're actually going to apply like a nitropyrin or DCD to the soil. It kills or reduces the soil biology for a short amount of time, helps keep your nitrogen in the ammonium form. We use the term management because our products, especially the Endzone Max that you're talking about, they have no DCD or nitropyrin in them. I like to tell people we can actually hold everything in our hands that's going to be in that Endzone Max, and it's calcium's polymers, and then it's polysaccharides. And so when we think about those two things, they're fairly simple, but there's a lot of science that goes into why are they in there and what are they actually doing.
Right. And so I guess a little more background on that is what we're trying to do is we're doing this because we've done absolutely no background to this trial that we just talked about.
That's right. We just got into the good stuff.
We're just like, hey, we're just going to let's talk about the science right away. No. So we're doing in our high density apple block, we have a Honeycrisp planting that is split 50-50 right down the middle. I forget, 6,000 trees, I think, per variety or per side of the irrigation. And we're going to be applying Endzone Max via irrigation through the drip tape, through the drip line, through fertigation. So that's what we're doing. That's why we want to do this, is because we need to get these trees to the top wire as fast as possible, because then we can begin to hang the fruit needed to make a profit, right? That's what farming's all about, is making sure that we're having a good time taking care of the land, being stewards of the land, but also we have to make a little money doing it in order to keep doing it. So that's what we're doing. That's the idea. And that's why Endzone Max is going to help us, is we are trying the best we can to get these trees to that top wire, pushing them with some nitrogen. But instead of just putting more nitrogen on, I think the approach I'm trying to take this year is to get more out of what we're already doing.
Yeah, it's efficiency, right? There's nothing that's cheap this year. And when you look at the price of nitrogen, it's gone up through the roof just like everything else has, right? But when we look at pairing it, and I love the fact that you kind of brought that up, right? This wonderful block, we actually flew them today, collected some baseline data, right? But you're applying it close to the tree, which is great, right? That's going to enhance your efficiency. But what we're trying to do is say, man, not only are we going to apply it, but we want to keep it right where those roots are, and then we want to maximize that uptake. And we have years of data on your traditional crops, right? Corn, everything like that. But this is an opportunity for us to move into a market of perennial crops where you're talking 30-year impacts.
Yeah, that's why I think it's such a great and a unique opportunity to get into a new market where we're also looking to do something completely brand new that we've never done. And so it's kind of,
we're in it together, and we both really don't know how it's going to go, but we're out here to give an honest review and show you guys exactly what happened. But you're confident that it's going to give us the result we're looking for.
Oh, we are. I mean, we've been able to utilize our nitrogen management all the way from corn down in Florida to out in North Dakota and Montana on their wheat products. And so I'm very confident. I'm just excited to see how this, when we collect our data to quantify that,
Yep.
I'm really interested to see how that all plays out.
Yeah, we're going to do that in a couple different ways that we talked about. One of them would kind of just be like a visual. We have different shoots that come out, new growth that shows up on the apple trees every year, like every grower, or cherry trees, everything. You get that new growth. You see it on a maple tree, anything that's growing. And so what we're going to do is visually measure those. We'll take some samples of that and kind of see exactly the growth that we're getting, in a measurable way, but as well as a cool drone setup that you brought out today that you've mentioned a couple times. So explain a little bit about what that's doing for us.
Yeah, definitely. So we're utilizing the drone in a couple of different ways. So first of all, we do red, green, blue, which is just what we see with our eyes, right? The colors that we see. But then we're also utilizing some indices where we're utilizing red absorption, near infrared reflectance, and red edge. And the reason we like to do that is I tell people that gives us a non-biased and a quantitative way to see what's happening. I tell people, good or bad, drones don't lie, right? We cannot manipulate what that image looks like. And so it's a nice way to say, hey, this is where we started. Then we're gonna come back in August, right? And this is where we are right now. And then by the time we at the end of the year, we have this entire book, right? We have the first chapter, we have the middle chapters, and we have the end, and hopefully we can tell that whole story.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the progress, because it's easy to walk down the row and say, like, you do each side and go, well, this one looks a little bit bigger, but we can actually quantify that this side is in fact doing better. And so one thing I failed to mention was that we're not trialing it against another product. It's strictly control versus non, because we want to make sure that what we're putting down is justifying the cost of doing it.
Definitely. And the way that you guys have your high density apples set up, it's going to work perfectly, right? We have all these rows that are running down. And so we flew our drone over those, and then we can actually put in boxes, if you can think about them, really long rectangles. And by putting those rectangles in, we can extract the reflectance just from those trees, which, like you said, now it takes away the eye, right? Oh, we want to see something there. We want to see something here. And it gives us a hard number that statistics aren't that much fun, right? But we can actually run statistics on and say, did we cause something to change in that plant?
Yeah, and I'm really hoping that we do, and it should be exciting. So you've been here now 2 separate times, and you've seen big change since then. It's like you talk about having that book from this end to this end, but now you've been here for two visits, and you've seen dormancy essentially, and then you missed bloom, but now we're here with fruitlets. We just got done thinning apples, which we talked about. Which we can obviously touch on again if you want to. And then obviously we have green cherries growing on the trees.
Right.
So it's pretty exciting to see, not only in 2 different, there's layers to this, it's like you get to see so much agriculture that you don't get to see in all times of the growing season.
And it's so interesting because, I mean, like in row crops, and the same thing with you guys, right? You guys talk root stalks, and then you talk about what you're grafting in. And in my view, that's like the first couple chapters, right? When we read a book, we're always excited. The first couple chapters grab our attention. And then at the end of the year, right, you guys are getting ready to go shake trees and harvest your cherries. We're a little ways from apples, but you guys are going to have some type of yield or some type of quality metric. I like looking at what we're doing as those chapters in the middle. Maybe not always the most exciting, but it's what builds the characters. And in my view, as we look at doing something like an end zone max and enhancing what your crops are doing, if we can change the chapters in the middle, we should be able to change that chapter at the end.
Right.
And that's what I'm so excited about, working with a crop that is going to be here for 20 to 30 years instead of maybe one growing season, or like some of the sugarcane we work with, maybe a couple of growing seasons.
Right, it's a one and done. That's what's I think another cool aspect of the trial is that we can do it as long as we want, or as much as we want. We can keep doing it because we can get that data over time, which I think is super cool, and it offers a unique opportunity, which is probably a little different than what you guys are usually used to on your trials.
Definitely. And like you said, it lets us kind of take what we're doing and bring it to a new area.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm excited to be able to work with you guys, because it's going to let us show that, man, we can function outside of our traditional crops.
Yeah, and I everything I've heard about AgX has been fantastic. Everyone loves working with you guys. You guys always bring great attitude and energy into everything that you guys have done. And so we're excited to have you on our farm. One thing I think that I've picked up on a couple different social media posts is that you guys haven't raised your prices in the last couple of years, which obviously is touchy subject for all farmers because inputs are on the rise. Everyone talks about it, and everything's costing more. You alluded to it, but you guys have kind of held strong in that. So what does that, keeping those prices there and keeping that good relationship with the growers, what does that mean to you guys?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the key things, and it's kind of become an inside joke in the company. So at the very beginning of the year, Tim Gutwein, who's our CEO and our sole owner, got on and on social media, public announcement said, we are committed to not raising our prices this year. And then everything happened. And we have products, and I don't remember, but it's gone up like multiple times. And we came to Tim and they were crunching numbers. They're like, you may have to adjust your pricing. And we were in this meeting and Tim looks up at all of us and he said, I can't. He said, 5 months ago, I sat out there and I told people at Commodity Classic and through all this other things that I will not move it. And so Tim has chosen to not move that, even though things like PGs and things like that are in our nitrogen management have gone up 2 or 3 times what they were 5 months ago. But I think that boils down to the fact that we're owned by one man. He gets to make those decisions. And he understands that when you're in agriculture, it takes you a lifetime to build a reputation and one growing season to ruin it. And that's how I look at it. And it's one thing that's really attracted me to AgXplore and what we're doing.
Yeah, I think it was the clip with Corey Hillable from Farm for Profit, and he's almost comically saying, like, you want to come onto this podcast, whatever, one of the most popular agriculture podcasts, and you want to talk about pricing.
Yep.
And that got me hooked. I mean, that's a hook in its own, because you're like, I got to see this. Someone who's literally producing mass amounts of material for growers, and traditionally that you could use, you could bump that price up because people you have to have it, right? I mean, we kind of get stuck in that funnel, but it's funny to see that. And I love that level of commitment. It's like, hey, I said something 5 months ago at a show. I can't be the guy that doubles down on it or ruins that reputation in one growing season. So that's super funny.
Most definitely.
So what are some of the things that you notice as the differences between the crops, right? You're a big row crop guy. So, but some people might get a little touchy. We got a row crop guy on the podcast. Yeah. So what are some of the most interesting things you've learned so far in your time up here?
Man, so the first thing that caught me was the way that you guys talk scale. So normally a growing season for us is 9 months, and then it's start to finish completely done. One of the first times I was up here last time, one of the first things we were talking about is how long your orchards are around, right? The decisions you're making right now in your nursery, which just floored me, right? You guys have your own nursery set up. You're talking about how you're grafting, then you're going in and you're measuring all the diameters and you're figuring out what you're going to transplant. But is the long-term approach. I think we were driving through one where you guys had just transplanted. Maybe they were 3 years old, somewhere kind of in that time frame. And we were talking, it's like, man, next 20 or 30 years, this is going to be where it is. And we oftentimes in the row crop industry say, man, I have 23 planting seasons left. You guys might have 2.
Yeah, it was funny. One of the older guys on the farm just the other day, he said, wow, we just took an orchard out and we were reworking it and we just planted grass seed to plant apples in it here in the future. And he was like, this might be the last time I see this flipped. And he's like he said, he saw it when he was 15 and now he's seeing it now, and so maybe that's a little egregious on that scale of gap of time. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you might only see an orchard turn over 2 or 3 times, in your life. As long, hopefully it's longer, because the longer you take care of the trees, the better they take care of you, right? And so it's funny to see that, like you say, it's turnover. You have 23 planting seasons. You might only have 2 planting seasons.
Yeah, but it really gets your attention, though, and it makes you think about, what am I doing now versus what it's going to give me in 2 years? Because then today we were walking some of your apple orchards, and we were talking about, man, we don't want to put too much stress on these, right? We're going to cause them to drop some of their reproductive tissue. And you're like, man, if we put too much stress, they might become a biennial. And now all of a sudden you're impacting something that says, man, I might not get a crop next year. I'm going to have to get it the following year. So does someone like me, who's getting a chance to travel and talk with guys like you and look at a lot of different crops, it starts to make you think, what am I doing right now that even though my crops might be annual, that are still going to impact it? It really forces you to take a big picture look.
Yeah, it definitely is different. It's like everybody thinks, even on this year, we have a little, some folks don't have any crop because of some frost damage. And so everyone kind of thinks, as fruit farmers, we're working half the year. We're part-time farmers, they say, because a lot of us aren't doing dairy with it. I mean, there's some farmers that do dairy as well as apples and cherries, so they keep themselves busy. Us, we have enough equipment and stuff to fix and orchard maintenance to do all year round, so we don't flirt with the livestock. But people call us part-time farmers because we're not doing anything else. But if you think about it, back to my original point of, we have a crop loss, you can't just, all right, That's it. You know, like if your crop blows, you know, if a big windstorm comes and knocks your corn on the ground, there's not much you can do for it, you know. But for us, if we lose the crop, we can't just stop spraying. We can't stop taking care of the tree because, like we spoke about earlier, that crop set, that bud set for the next year happens early in the season in June. So it's like you have to pay attention so much, and you can't just give up on your inputs and your work just because your crop's gone.
Oh yeah, and like you said, I mean, it goes beyond what I've even brought up to when you guys are going out and pruning, and you've walked me through that process, right? Which one do you want to prune? Why are you going to prune it? Is it a cherry tree and the direction goes one direction? It's an apple tree, it goes another way. There's just so many small details that you don't really think about when someone like myself, we stop, we grab a dozen really nice looking apples and we take them home. We don't always realize everything else that's gone into it. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, it's things like that that have really, I think, helped me grow as an agronomist, is talking with everyone across the United States, seeing how they're doing it, understanding what's important. And it's those little things, right, that we can glean. You guys talk a lot about what's in your foliar sprays, right? Those aren't a whole lot different from what we do in our other crops. You're just doing it at a different time.
Yeah, and we're doing about every time we go out, we're doing something. We talked about doing some tissue samples, some sap sampling, and the benefits of that, and being able to see what's going on in your tree at that moment, and then also what can you provide to that tree when it needs it. And you guys have a cool system. You guys are kind of talking. I don't know if you're allowed to talk about that.
We can talk about a few good things.
It might be breaking news on the Specialty Cropcast. But go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, tissue tests can be a lot of fun, right? Tissue tests, sap tests, right? Whole plant tests, obviously not on an apple tree,
right?
But
let's just cut it off and test the whole thing.
Grind this one up. But no, I mean, it gives you that snapshot. What's happening in my plant at this specific time? And I've worked with a lot of guys, and we look at thousands of those a year, and it gives us that short-term look. But we're also looking at using some instrumentation now where we can clip onto a leaf 15 to 30 seconds later, we actually can get an idea of what's happening in there on most of your macros and your micros. And then we're doing a little work behind the scenes to see how we can actually utilize that information instantaneously with our partners, with our farmers that are out in the field, and actually give them real world and live updates on what the crops are doing.
And you said you might have that the next time you come out?
Yes.
Yeah, we could.
We'll bring it up. We'll play around a little bit.
That sounds pretty cool.
We'll throw the drone up and then we'll clip some leaves.
Yeah, while the drone's working, we can mess around and look at some leaves. So what is the number one thing that surprised you most of the information that you've learned from talking with the specialty crop guys?
Oh man, let me think. There's just so many things on there. Probably bud set was one of the big ones, right? How you guys control that, right? We all grow up and we have 3 apple trees right in the backyard, but thinking about when you look at 6,000 in a block, right, that you guys just brought on, and then trying to control that set and the way that you guys do it and the amount of data, right? We talk 10 millimeters, right? Those are the things that just stick in my mind. We want to be at that 10 millimeters so we can have the others fall, right? When we shake the branch like we were looking at earlier, to focus on the largest one that's going to actually give us a yield. I think some of the small details that in my mind, I don't think I ever realized. And then like last time I was up, we were having frost. And you guys actually had those huge fans. They called hurricane fans. Is that right? Or
they're called Chinooks or orchard rights or what we use.
That was my next one.
Yeah. Yeah. I said it on the tip of your tongue.
That's right. But just the amount of work, because you guys were talking about how once the temperature drops, it's like 2:00 in the morning, and you're out and you're turning all of them on, and then you have to keep going around to all of them, keep fueling them. Hopefully they don't burn up, right?
Yeah, there's been a couple that set fire.
But I mean, I don't think that the average person, and I fall into that, realizes the amount of work that goes into keeping all of that there.
Yeah, and I think again, a thought about the average person. When you think about an apple, right? When you walk into that store and you grab that apple off the shelf, I mean, sure, it's a perfect apple that shows up. I mean, otherwise you wouldn't be buying it, right? That's the whole point. So bringing that quality, people don't understand how difficult it is to bring that quality fruit from the season where we're fighting frost right off the bat. Then you have to deal with pollination weather. Do you have the right weather? Are the bees going to pollinate it? Then you have to make it through thinning and make the right choices during thinning and not lose all your fruit. Then you have to deal with weather events like hail, too much wind knocking the fruit off. Then you have overripening. We have sunburn where in September, if you get a couple days of 90, it actually burns the apple, the side of the apple that faces the sun. And obviously you're not going to buy that apple. Then not only after that, the guys have to pick it right. We talked about how we clip stems, how if you squeeze it too hard, you leave fingerprints. And then all that has to make it on a semi-truck, make it to the processor. A lot of the time, make it through that controlled atmospheric storage. and then has to get shipped to to where you buy it. And then even the guy handling the fruit in the store has to do a good job. Otherwise, that could get damaged right at Meijer or any of your local stores. And so there's so much I think that people don't think about when it comes from growing a quality fruit and then getting it all the way that final product to the store. And I think that's elevated in specialty crops.
Oh, I agree. But then when we walk in the store and we get the apple, and my second son Andrew loves apples, and he eats it, and you would have thought it was fresh, right? We would never have guessed that it had been sitting in storage, and that all of those steps had to go to get there. But in my mind, I'm listening to you talk about this, and I go back to that book. If you skipped any of those chapters, right, the end doesn't end like we want it to.
Exactly. Yeah. I mentioned it earlier. It was probably from another interview we did, where it's interesting to see that some people don't realize that apples aren't picked 12 months out of the year. Like, how do they expect that this fruit shows up at my store with a nice crisp crunch to it, like it's been just plucked off the tree a day before? But in reality, that's not how it happens, and we have to store fruit, for months at a time in order to bring that freshness to it. So that is probably something that's a little bit different for you guys. And the idea of, like in apples, you alluded to the thinning. Like, we are purposely trying to knock potential yield off the tree, which is like, that's probably like, big X for, for any row crop. You're trying to get as much as you can. But for us, we're like, no, that's too much. We got to get rid of it.
We're causing ears to drop. What?
Yeah. No, not us. We're like, we got to get rid of these apples. Or
That's
we got
right.
to crop. And obviously, there's two types of thinning. You can do it chemically, which is what we've started with. And then you use, or you hand thin, which is obviously much more pricey to pay someone to go through, and they'll select those apples once they grow out of that. I think there's a new material out there that can get apples at 22 to 23 millimeters. So about double what we saw on the trees today.
Okay.
Or maybe not double. Some of them are a little past that 10 mark, but either way, like there's still ways to get it, but that chemistry costs a lot more money to do it. And sometimes if they're past it, it doesn't work.
Right.
So we try and get it the first time without having to pay people to go through, because that costs a lot more money.
Oh, I'd say so. A little more time consuming.
Yeah, a lot more hand work. So I guess, what else do you want to talk about? You have any other questions? What else is interesting
I
to
do.
you?
So the one thing you probably found about me is I ask a lot of questions, and I love getting a chance to sit down with agronomists like yourself. And like I said, we've worked with from everything with sugarcane to lentils up in Montana. And when I get a chance to sit here, I'd love to ask a question that says, man, if you think back the last 10 years, right, as you've grown and what you're doing, what are 3 things that you think are driving the specialty market, specifically these apples and cherries? What are 3 things you are doing, you're seeing people doing, that you think are actually pushing that ROI for you guys?
Well, I think right off the bat, one of them would be that we need to be taking better care of the fruit, right? What we're doing with it. And then that's going a long way. There's a lot of new equipment out there. They're talking about having machines. The universities are talking about having machines harvest the fruit because the handling causes the damage. Another thing that we're really focusing on is more nutrition based stuff. If you have abiotic stresses in the plant, treating it with a healthy program, foliar program or fertility program, is better than spending extra money to battle problems later. And I guess a third one, again, another technology thing, is we're trying to be more efficient with time, because everything costs more money. And so in order for us to be better growers and to keep moving the industry forward in general, we need to be efficient in what we're doing and find better ways to do it, right? And so I think that utilizing technology, we did a smart sprayer. You saw it today. We have a John Deere Globe on our pull blast sprayer, which is probably pretty funny to see, and one on our case tractor, which you pointed out, which doesn't line up. But so we have a smart apply system now, and it saved us 30% material on one cover already, and we used it. So that's super cool.
So talk to me about the smart apply a little bit, right? So when we think about spraying fields, right, we talk about identifying weeds on the fly. Yeah. Talk to me though, what are you guys doing with yours, and how is it saving you 30%?
So what the smart apply does is it reads the orchard as you're driving by in a 270-degree LiDAR detection, and it kind of builds like a 3D blueprint of your tree as it's going by. And the cool part about it is a traditional, because there's plenty of smart spray out there where if it's see and spray. Yep. It sees the tree and it sprays from start to finish. What they call an intelligent spray now is you control all of the nozzles individually, and each one fires on its own when the eyes see a branch, right? So traditionally, if one branch was sticking out longer, it would start spraying everything when that tree went by. But this new system will spray just that branch until it sees the rest of the tree. So that's where real the savings are, and it has been pretty impressive. I mean, you turn the sprayer on and it goes, I mean, we have, on the trees that we were talking about, you only need a couple seconds spray. So I mean, it was saving over 50% on those smaller trees, because instead of just having that spray on continuously and wasting all that material, you don't want to get into all the, putting that extra stuff in the air when it doesn't need to be, but it's an on-targeted application.
And when you guys are making the passes, you are, right? So it's not 3 or 4 passes. You guys, when we were up here 5 weeks ago, you already started. I mean, you're making consistent passes throughout the season.
Yeah, it's very weather dependent for sure. And so if we have a lot of water, then we're doing a lot of spraying. But in this time of the year, it slows down a little bit. We focus more about getting calcium and nutrients into the trees as long as we can before we lose those pathways to help us prevent bitter pit, like we talked about. But yeah, we're doing a lot of passes. And so if that was 30% I was on our fully grown trees, and then you talk about 50%, and you multiply that over not only just one cover, which we went from 6 tanks to 4.5 tanks to all over the entire season, the savings are immense. I imagine that piece of equipment will pay for itself pretty quickly. You're pretty good at asking questions. I thought this was my show.
Don't ever give me the chance.
Can you believe it? I thought this was my show. He's stealing it.
I'm just trying to learn.
Just kidding. No, so the Smart Apply is something that's new, and there was a lot of growers out in California. I went on a farm trip out there, and they were really heavy on it, and so we had the opportunity to trial it on our farm through Hudson Inc., John Deere dealer here in the Midwest, and they brought a brand new tractor out, which I tried to convince the powers to buy the whole tractor and spare setup, but that was a little too egregious of a purchase, so that got turned down. So I waited a year, and now I have the system, and so we're excited to have it on the farm finally and using it.
That is awesome.
Well, is there anything else that you want to talk about before you go? I appreciate your time. Obviously, you're here with your wife. She's here, and it is anniversary season.
That's
apparently.
right.
So,
Beautiful area for it.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't want to take any more time out of your guys' your trip. I know you guys are staying in town for another day to enjoy the area. It's beautiful, plenty to see, plenty to do. So I appreciate your time and for coming in and being on the podcast. And we'll probably have to have you again when the rest of the crew's in. And we can hopefully next time we can sit here and talk about some results.
Most definitely,
and see some of that. And we'll be able to put some pictures up too, so we can show exactly what what the drone's doing, exactly how we're seeing that justification of the product working. So
definitely.
Again, I appreciate the time, and thanks for coming up. And like you said, it was a 13-hour drive to come up here to run a drone for an hour, but
it's most definitely worth it.
Yeah, the job's the job, I guess.
That's
right. And you get to see a beautiful spot and get to do fun stuff like come on a podcast.
That's right.
Again, so I appreciate the time, and I guess if you don't have any other questions.
Nope, I'm good. I'll save them for next time.
Are you sure? I know. You get a mic in front of you.
That's right.
He just goes. All right. Well, this podcast is available anywhere you get your podcast. We'll have clips of this on Instagram and TikTok. Everything is all at the Specialty Cropcast. So again, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate your time, and I'll look forward to seeing you here in the middle of August.
Sounds great. Right. I appreciate it, Talon.
Thank you.